Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
We're doing great. How's everything going on the campaign trail?
It's going very, very well. We're starting to get very busy, of course, but that's a good thing, and looking forward to making it your way a few times here in the next couple months.
Now, if a couple of calzones hop into the car with you, nobody's going to complain back here.
You know, when I come down, I'll make this promise. I'll do a couple half-bakes. You guys just got to promise when you bring them home, you won't start your kitchen on fire.
I can make you that promise, Bobby. I promise. I'll honor that one.
Okay.
Bobby, John Boehner, the House Speaker in Illinois yesterday for another Republican candidate running for Congress, said he thinks this November will be the most successful year in the land of Lincoln in more than 2 decades. And that's saying a bit because, back in 2010, it was a pretty decent year for Republican candidates around the state, including in the 17th District. So what is it about this November? Do you agree? Will this be the best year for Illinois Republicans in quite a long time?
I really do believe that, and it's really not rocket science. If you look at who's had control of the state for the last 10-plus years, and then where the state is, I mean, we're at the bottom of the rung on pretty much every issue there is, whether it's most jobs leaving, we're at the top, most jobs, it's just, this is a disaster, and what's happened is these career politicians that get in there, they want to take care of themselves and their buddies rather than doing what's right for the state. So I think on the governor's mansion, I think we're going to capture that. But the big thing is for us as Republicans, as conservatives, is not to get overconfident and continue to work our tails off to make sure we can save our state.
I want to ask you about the speaker quickly. I know he'll be coming in for a fundraiser for you as well in the near future. There's been some criticism of him as the House leader by both Democrats and by some Republicans, too. I think to the Democratic National Convention this past election in 2012, when Bill Clinton got on the big stage, spoke out in favor of the president and said, nobody, not even me, I couldn't even do a better job than the president did in terms of bringing back the economy. Do you feel the same way about the speaker? I mean, he might not be perfect, but could anyone do a better job, perhaps, than he has? It's been a tough slog for him these past few years in trying to put together the Republican caucus.
I think back of the 112th Congress, and, the way the speaker had explained to the folks about us is that we were like a wheelbarrow full of frogs. You have everybody that's all over the place. But I will say this, is that the thing that's nice about the Republican Party is that we're all allowed to come in with our ideas and share them, and some folks see that as a dysfunctional Congress. But the fact of the matter is this, is that, if I've got an idea, I can get it to the floor, and I can go against my party if I so choose. But on the opposition side, if they go against their folks, it's just you just don't see that because they are very very disciplined, and this is the way it is. And so I think that the one thing that we have on our side is a little bit more freedom to voice our opinions and what we think is the best direction. But as in what he's done, and there's been a few times that I've disagreed with the speaker, but there's been a few times I've been disagreeing with my wife of 28 years. So it's not going to always be perfect, but some of the things I have to look at a couple of days after the speaker makes a decision, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a great idea, but at first I would totally disagree with it.
I think you've given us a pretty good illustration of the differences right there, too. There's the difference between being allowed some free thought and getting some marching orders and talking points and being sent out there to execute them.
Exactly right.
Bobby Schilling with us, former 17th District Congressman, running again in November. Let's talk Obamacare. Now, the more people find out about it, the less they like it. That's what the new polls are saying. We had a Kaiser Family Foundation poll here recently. The number of people disapproving or saying they do not like Obamacare actually shot up a bit, largely because people are actually finding out what's in the bill, how it's going to impact them personally. And what Forbes had a study recently showing the impact of Obamacare on the 17th District, and really it means everyone's going to pay more.
It really does. And, here's the thing is that as a member of Congress and the folks that were there before us that were preaching against the, I call it the Unaffordable Health Care Act, we continue to go up against it. But, people are like, oh, yeah, whatever, we do need health care change. But now what's happening is now it's going to start to hit people's pocketbooks. Just in Winnebago County alone, 27-year-old men, the premiums are going to go up $936 a year. A 27-year-old woman is $528. The seniors are getting really, really crushed. The average 64-year-old woman in all 14 counties of the Illinois 17th they saw at least $1,000 premium increase. So this isn't about, first you got to remember what they promised is, we're going to make it more cost-effective for people. Premiums are going to go down. We're going to get everybody insured. And if you take a look at, I've got a good friend of mine. He had a $500 deductible. He was forced onto the exchanges. His premiums went up 2.5 times, but then his deductible also went up over $1,000. So it did nothing to help him and his family out. Very frustrated. But it's those type of things that we really, really got to focus in on solid fixes. And, we've come out with 5 different fixes that we could do that would really, really help it out. And hopefully the people are going to pay attention to what we've got.
Look at the numbers, like, the average family of 4 seeing an annual health care spending increase of $7,450. You talk about something, and it seems like one of those, well, everybody knows that, but, it was so pounded. I mean, with a sledgehammer. We're going to save money here. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. I don't see where many people looking at an increase of $7,400 a year are going to think that's the greatest thing ever.
That's the thing that I also look at is these increases. I mean, these are on our working poor, our middle class, hardworking taxpayers here across the United States of America. And now these folks are going to have to decide, okay, am I going to pay this premium or am I going to go buy some milk and groceries for the house? And it's really getting tough for everyone. And everyone that I talk to, I don't hear them saying, hey, I'm doing great. And the folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, which is most Americans, including myself, is that, this is not something that you want to be putting money out to when you've got a kid that wants to play sports or you want to, take a trip for a vacation. Instead, you've got to funnel your money over to Obamacare, with something you might not ever have to use.
Bobby Schilling with us, running for Congress, 17th District. It's Riley and Scott on WROK. At Joe Davies, Carroll, Stevenson counties, an average individual health insurance premium increase of $1,356 annually. The quick math says that's at least $100 a month more. You mentioned the 5 concrete solutions, Bobby, and of course that's the follow-up. All right, we're bad, we're paying more. So what do? You'll have the opportunity, hopefully with a Republican-led Senate, to actually put some legislation on the president's desk if it passes both the House and the Senate. What are you looking to do?
There's 5 different things. One of the things that I did while I was a member of Congress is I visited with the doctors and went to what I call the final 3 feet. And I did not realize this until I had meetings with them. But number 1 is to allow the doctors that are not under the umbrella of the hospital to give what I call charitable care. So what happens is a doctor that's outside of the hospital and gives free health care to the most neediest amongst us, at the end of the year they cannot write that off on their taxes. So number 1 is allow for them to write that off, thereby incentivizing them to give free health care to a person that is in need. Also, the same would work with a dentist. If you think about folks that have, a bad tooth or something, having to deal with all that pain. Secondly, what I would do is increase the health savings account limits so that people can put more money into these accounts. What HSAs do is they allow for me to be actually a consumer of the health care, and I'm looking at, hey, what is this going to cost for the surgery, how much for the hospital, and I can go in and negotiate with the hospital, the doctor. Then we also have to have some tort reform, is to make sure all of these junk lawsuits are brought under control. And lastly, the one that that just actually got passed through the House is the Enhanced Veteran Health Care Experience Act that I authored back in the 112th Congress, which finally, after all of the scandals in the VA, was actually brought back to the House floor with a couple of small little tweaks. But what this does is this allows our heroes to go to any doctor or hospital or specialist in the entire United States of America while also being able to use the local VA facilities.
See, and this is the great thing, because there was quite a bit, I think in some cases, very legitimate criticism of Republicans that, while excoriating Obamacare, there were not many ideas that were offered up by others. So, okay, you don't like this, but what would you propose in its place? You've given that some long and hard thought.
Yeah, I was in the insurance business for years, so I have a pretty good grip on how all of this works. And at the end of the day, this issue is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about the American family. This is about Americans and just making sure that people do have access to Affordable Health Care Act, which Obamacare did not do. It actually has put a crunch on people. For example, myself, I've got a $5,000 deductible. something happens, I've got to figure out how I'm going to pay that deductible. So I think the big thing is to have both parties coming together, not as Democrat or as Republican, but as Americans, and trying to do the darndest to get something that's actually good for the people, not trying to shove things through without ever reading.
Bobby Schilling with us here. It's Riley and Scott on WROK. He's running for Congress in the 17th District. Bobby, the House on Friday acted on the border bill before they left, acted on preventing the president from expanding the Deferred Action Program. Before they left, the Senate didn't do anything on the upper chamber. But the House acted, and it gets lost a bit how often the House does pass legislation while the Senate doesn't do anything. And even Democrats, John McCain was really ticked off, but Democrats are also upset because they are unable to get any bills voted on in the U.S. Senate. They can't go home to their constituents and say, I tried, because Harry Reid won't allow votes on nearly anything.
Exactly. Here's something else, and then there's a reason why this is known as the most dysfunctional Senate in the history of the United States of America. But this is another reason why it is so darn important for people across the United States of America to get out and vote on November the 4th, because what we've got to do is we've got to get control of the Senate. In the 112th Congress, we had several hundred bills that were really good, solid bills that could help move America forward, and Harry Reid was too darn concerned of who was going to get credit for the bill, so he buried them. They never made it to the president's desk. If we take the Senate back, what happens is it passes the House, it passes the Senate, and then it goes to Barack Obama, and he can make the decision on if he wants to go down in history as being a decent president, or if he wants to finish ahead of Jimmy Carter as being one of the worst presidents known to the people of the United States.
And, it would be a nice switch, I think, for many people to sit back and go, wow, look, the Senate is actually doing something.
Exactly. You got to do something, and for them to take off with this border mess going on is just it's ludicrous. I know that when they called the House back in just this week to force them to do some extra votes, a lot of those folks had already booked their flights, and you know what? That's too bad. You're there to work for the American people. You're making a lot of money, and at least you can do is go and do the work that we're paying you to do.
Bobby Schilling with us here, just another minute or two. It's Riley and Scott here on WROK. I think since the last time we talked, perhaps, was the Eric Cantor defeat, and Kevin McCarthy taking over as majority leader in the House. Did you work at all with Kevin or closely with Kevin during your time in Congress last time around? How do you think he'll act under the Speaker's leadership?
I did work with Kevin. I think he's going to do very well. He is a good conservative from California, and I know that those two things don't go into a sentence too well. I think he'll do a really good job. He's a no bull type of guy, and he's somebody that I think that will do great for us. He was just in the district about 3 weeks ago. I was one of the very first stops after him being elected. He came to Peoria, Illinois, and did a nice event for me, and we're pretty excited. I think that this is going to be a good year, not only for Illinois, but for the United States as a whole, and I think we're going to be able to move this country forward after this next election cycle.
Bobby, for people looking for more info on you, where do you suggest they go?
Just head to BobbySchilling.com, and it's BobbySchilling.com. We've got all of our issues up there on the page, and anybody that wants to help or volunteer, just call our office at 309-755-9200.
Bobby, as always, we really appreciate your time. Have a fantastic day.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. 9:50.